Welcome to Digitalopolis Discussions. Okay, get this for a second. Research shows something like 85% of people really hesitate, sometimes just completely fail, to ask for what they actually want.
Yeah, 85%.
Yes.
It's a shocking number when you think about it.
Right. Think of all the missed chances, the help not received,
Yeah.
just because the question wasn't asked.
It points to something really fundamental, doesn't it? A core human challenge.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're digging into today. We've been looking at some fascinating research about the science behind asking.
Not just how to ask, but what actually happens psychologically and socially when you do.
Yeah.
And maybe more importantly, why receiving often follows if you ask.
So our mission here is really to pull out the key insights, the practical stuff you can actually use from this material. We want to unpack why asking is so much more than just like a simple request.
It's me like a trigger, really, a catalyst for change.
Okay, so what's the absolute core idea here? What's running through all this research?
Well, the main thing is that the act of asking itself, it's not passive, not at all. It actively kicks off some pretty significant changes.
Changes where? Inside you or?
Both, actually, internally and externally. It's less about someone just giving you something and more about activating a whole process.
Interesting. What kind of process? How does just saying you want something do anything?
So the research looks at it from a few angles. Psychologically, just vocalizing a desire, it sort of cements your commitment, makes it real for you.
Okay.
And then from a neuroscience standpoint, studies suggest that articulating a specific goal actually primes your brain. It makes you more aware, more likely to spot opportunities related to that thing you asked for.
Wait, really? So my brain literally starts scanning differently?
That seems to be the idea, yeah. You notice things you'd otherwise just filter out. And then there's the social side.
Right.
Sociologically, research on social networks shows people comfortable asking tend to build stronger, more reciprocal connections. Asking thoughtfully can create a kind of mutual buy-in.
So it builds social capital, essentially, not just a one-off thing.
Exactly. It can strengthen relationships for the future.
Okay, so the material we looked at seemed to boil this down to maybe 3 key principles. What's the first big one?
The first is simple, but kind of profound. Asking initiates the process. It's the starting gun.
The spark.
Right. Nothing can happen through someone else until you make that ask. And like we just touched on, once you do ask, social science suggests it often triggers this impulse in others to reciprocate or at least engage.
Okay, so asking gets the ball rolling. And the second principle seems to follow right on, that the idea that receiving is often, maybe even usually, automatic, but only after you ask.
Yes, and this is where the psychology gets really interesting. You see effects like cognitive consistency or that foot in the door thing.
Yeah.
Where if someone agrees to something small first, they feel this internal pressure to be consistent. So they're way more likely to agree to a bigger related thing later. But the real bottleneck, study after study shows, isn't people saying no. It's that internal barrier. Remember that 85%. The biggest hurdle is often just the fear of rejection, the hesitation to even make that initial ask.
That makes so much sense. We get in our own way before anyone else even has a chance to respond. And the third principle, that really challenges how we tend to think, right?
Yeah.
The idea that success is abundant.
Exactly. A lot of the research contracts that scarcity mindset. The idea there's only so much success or wealth to go around with a growth or abundance mindset.
Yeah, the fixed pie idea.
Right. And the data suggests that believing things are scarce actually limits your willingness to try, to ask. Whereas believing there's plenty of opportunity encourages action. And, broader economic trends do support the idea of ongoing value creation. It's not usually a zero-sum game.
Your win doesn't have to be my loss. It's about taking action.
It's more about your willingness to, ask for your piece or create your piece.
Okay, so if asking is this vital first step and there's enough to go around, how does the science say we should do it effectively? There were 2 main ways highlighted.
First, ask with intelligence, which really boils down to clarity, specificity.
Like the SMART goals concept.
Very much like that.
Yeah.
Research shows that having really clear, specific goals engages your brain's problem-solving functions much more effectively. It's not just about wording. It actually changes how you think about achieving it.
So instead of just, I want a raise, it's more like, what specific skills or projects can I take on to justify, say, a 15% salary increase in the next year?
Precisely. You're giving your brain and potentially the person you're asking a clear target to work with. Much more actionable.
Got it. And the second way?
The second is asking with faith. The sources talk about this interesting combo, Childlike belief plus adult planning.
Childlike belief.
Yeah, think about how kids ask for things.
Yeah.
Developmental psych shows they ask much more freely, right?
Yeah.
They haven't really learned helplessness or the deep fear of judgment yet.
They just ask without all the baggage.
Exactly. They operate from this baseline assumption that it's possible. So the idea is to pair that fundamental belief that things can work out with disciplined, adult planning, and persistence.
So you believe it's possible, and then you make a real plan.
Right. And that taps into the self-fulfilling prophecy effect. Believing you can succeed fuels the actions that, statistically, make success more likely. You persist longer.
Okay, this is really practical stuff. How do we actually put this into practice? Any concrete takeaways?
Well, one clear suggestion is to commit to practicing asking for a set period, maybe 90 days. Habit formation research suggests that kind of time frame helps embed a new behavior.
Right, make it a conscious habit.
Another big one is shifting your identity. Don't just aim to be a good worker, waiting to be recognized. Be a good asker. The workplace data is especially strong here. People who negotiate salaries ask for promotions. They earn significantly more over their careers.
What was the number? Something like 15, 30% more?
Yeah, figures in that range often pop up in negotiation studies. It's a substantial difference, purely from being willing to ask.
Wow. That's a huge return on just asking.
It really is. And maybe the simplest advice linked to things like Parkinson's law of triviality, where we get bogged down in tiny details. Just avoid overthinking it. The research really implies that taking action, making the ask, is often way more productive than getting stuck analyzing every potential doubt or downside. Just initiate.
Just start the process. That actually leads perfectly into a final thought I want to leave you, the listener, with. Think about it. What potential opportunities, connections, maybe even personal growth are sitting just on the other side of a single thoughtful question in your own life?
Yeah.
What could you unlock if you just found a way past that initial hesitation, that 85% fear, and simply asked?
That's a powerful question to sit with, especially linking it back to that idea of abundance, that the opportunity is likely there waiting for you to initiate.
Thank you for being with us.
If you like being with us, subscribe for great content like this.